I was traveling from Slovenia to Germany by train, and instead of going straight through, I decided to stop in Salzburg for a while. I wanted to see what the city has to offer.
Close your eyes, clear your heart. Cut the cord. Are we human? Oh, dancer.
I had luggage with me and I needed some storage. Salzburg Hauptbahnhof or Central Station has lockers, so you can store your luggage there. This is the storage room. It's right next to the toilets. You pay according to size and how long you want to store your luggage. Everything was quite straightforward, but I think you can only use your bank card to pay though. After storing the luggage, I tried to get some winter clothes near the train station. It was freezing at this time. I visited in the last week of March, so yeah, it was still very cold. Then I made my way to the old town and I came across this square. So in this square, they actually have one of Mozart's houses or his residence. It's the Mozart Museum. It's this one right here. For those of you who don't know, Mozart was born in this city, and this city has two of his houses. One where he was born in, it's on the other side of town, it's across the river. And the one on this side is where he moved on later with his family. Both houses are now museums. I didn't have enough time to check out the museums, but hopefully next time I'll be able to. This river is called the Salzburg River. The name comes from the German word Salz, which is salt, and Ach means river in Old German. And yes, you guessed it, Salzburg also comes from salt, Salz salt, and Burg for fortress or castle. And if you're wondering why there's so much salt in the names, it's because the entire region became wealthy from salt mining in the nearby Alps. The river actually divides the old town from the new town. So for the Mozart houses, he was born in the old town, then he later on moved to the new town. When you're in Salzburg, you can actually see the Alps from so many places. They're just so beautiful. Like here, you can even see them from the bridge. The first thing I did once I arrived at the old town was actually try to find some hand cream because I was so cold. It was the worst. It was like a dry type of cold. My skin felt so dry, and I just had to try to find the nearest supermarket to get some hand cream. And thank God I found it. Then I went out again just to see what was around, and my first impression of the old town was that it felt grand and expansive, just like modern cities. Even though the streets are narrow, it still felt big for some reason. I just love walking through these streets. It's amazing to think that these are the same streets Mozart used to walk in 200 years ago. The city has preserved so much of its historic charm that it feels like you've stepped back in time when you're there. I mean, the overall street plan here dates back to the Middle Ages. This old town is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It has been since 1996. And this is because it's considered one of the best preserved historic city centers in Europe. After walking for a bit, I got hungry and I was looking for some restaurants, but most were closed. I think it's one of those cities where restaurants close after lunchtime and then open again in the evening for dinner. And so the food options around the time I was there were limited. I mean, they had this other market, but all of the food looked like pretzels.
Danke. Und Achter. Dankeschön.
Eventually I settled for this place. It's called the North Sea. I got a fish sandwich and honestly, I should have just had the pretzel. This was cold, a cold fried fish sandwich. There's something I don't like about fried cold fish. It honestly made me feel sick after a few bites. So I would never recommend this to anybody. As I was walking, I came across this House of Mozart building. It's apparently a theatre and a concert venue. This is the monastic church of St. Peter's Abbey. It's one of the oldest monasteries in the German-speaking world, and it was founded over 1,000 years ago. So, if you're a fan of the sound of music, you should be able to recognize some of the filming locations here. To be honest, I watched it when I was little, so I didn't remember exactly what the scenes looked like. So I had to go back and rewatch some of the clips. I watched them here on YouTube, and yeah, the whole city was basically the set. I could see the castle in the backgrounds, and actually, if you've also forgotten what it looks like, search for the Do Re Mi song. You know, that bit when they were going around the city, in the countryside, and you'd see exactly what I mean. And later on in the video, I'll show you Mirabel Gardens where they shot some of the scenes. Now, up on that hill is the Salzburg Fortress. It was built in 1077. It's one of Europe's largest and best preserved medieval castles, and after nearly 1,000 years, it still dominates Salzburg's skyline. I came across this cemetery. It's called St. Peter's. I didn't plan on seeing it, and I'm not very comfortable visiting graveyards, but apparently this is the oldest burial ground in Salzburg and one of the oldest in Europe. Above the cemetery are catacombs. These are carved directly into the rock. They're basically ancient spaces which were used as early Christian prayer rooms. They also had this chapel around the cemetery. I'm not exactly sure what the chapel is called. This well was traditionally used to power a mill by using flowing water. I remember actually seeing a similar one in Salzburg, Germany. This is Kapitälplatz, and here you can find this giant chessboard. This is Residenzplatz. It's one of the main squares of Salzburg's old town. I sat around here for a few minutes and the church bells went off. When I tell you they're so loud, I felt like my soul was knocked out of my body. It's this whole grand thing I was talking about. These are the Mirabel Gardens. For those of you who've watched The Sound of Music and remember the scenes, you should be able to recognize these gardens. I went to this garden when it was quite late and a lot of people were leaving. It does get a lot of visitors. Even if you haven't watched The Sound of Music, it is a very beautiful place. And I'm sure it looks even more beautiful in summer. The fountain here is also in the Do Re Mi song. Apparently it's called the Pegasus Fountain. At the back of the gardens, they also have this series of classical statues inspired by Greek and Roman mythology. Eventually, I went back closer to the central station, and this restaurant called Akakiko seemed good, and I just decided to try it. It's a fusion restaurant. I got some gyoza for the starters, and for the main, it was this vegetable Korean ramen. It was okay, but a lot better than the fish sandwich I had earlier on. The gyoza was decent, but the noodle texture on the ramen was a bit questionable. Almost looks like instant noodles. only stayed in Salzburg for half a day, and for the night, I booked an Airbnb through booking.com. It was advertised as Salzburg, but it was really in Germany. It's called Apartment Aria. It was so far from the central station. It was actually in Germany, and there was no public transport going there, so I had to take a taxi. Most of the taxi drivers didn't even want to go there because it is cross-border. Even though I was going to Germany afterwards, I still had to go back to Salzburg Hauptbahnhof the next day to get the train. So I don't recommend this Airbnb if you're relying on public transport. But if you're in Salzburg and you have your own car, then I do recommend this Airbnb. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.